My name is Jeff Burkhart. My book, Randomly Accessed Memories and Chance Encounters on the Road, is a compilation of stories about my adventures traveling on the road and lighting bands. It chronicles the people, places, and history of over 30 years of my experiences. This chapter takes place in San Francisco in 1977. It traces my footsteps on a trip through the financial district in North Beach and is entitled The Rose of the Rio Grande. On my first trip to California with the Dregs in 1977, I felt free. I was living in the band house and had no bills to speak of, just doing the gigs, having as much fun as you could have on the meager wages, women, music, drink, and whatever else was around in the cities that we traveled to. Every city brought a new group of Dregs fans that would do anything to be close to the band. Most were aspiring musicians. Some even went on to be successful in their own right. They would offer up tributes to bribe us on the outside chance they could help set up the gear, get close to the band, get in the gig, anything. We were doing a group of gigs in the San Francisco Bay Area, and Twigs introduced me to a young stripper named Dana Costa, also known as the Rose of the Rio Grande. I just called her Rose. She worked at the Hungry Eye, one of the many strip joints that line Columbus Avenue in the financial district of San Francisco. Twigs knew her from the Allman Brothers days back in Macon, where her parents abandoned her at 15 and relocated to San Francisco, where her father was a bartender at the Hungry Eye, and her mother at the El Cid, two of the seedier, more garish joints on the strip. Well, Rose refused to be abandoned. She escaped whatever arrangements Child Protective Services had made for her in her parents' absence. She located them through relatives and hitchhiked to San Francisco. When she turned 18, she became a stripper. I guess the business was just in her blood. She was a sweet hippie girl. She wasn't a man-hater, prostitute, or drug addict, and she didn't fraternize with customers after work. It was just her way of making money, being close to her family. Rose was a real live San Francisco hippie. She loved to listen to the Grateful Dead and take LSD. We were staying at the Financial District Holiday Inn. John Phillips, our sound man, Rose, and I were at the hotel, and an old friend from the Allman Brothers days called. Psychedelic Joe was covered with tattoos and wanted to get into that business, so he had moved to San Francisco to work for the famed tattoo artist Lyle Tuttle, who had tattooed Greg Allman and Cher with a mushroom logo he designed for them. Joe met us in our room, toting his tattooing rig. He was going to put some of his art on my skin. It was a beautiful, warm summer day, and we all had a couple of drinks, so we went up to the pool on the roof of the hotel. Rose reached in her purse and pulled out a tiny vial, pure liquid LSD. She convinced us to take some with her. At 11 in the morning, we were sitting on chaise lounges in the financial district directly next door to the famous Transamerica Pyramid, and we were really high up. Rose pulled out an eyedropper and put a drop of her pure acid in each of our eyes, and then her own. After about 15 minutes, we began to notice the clouds lap their lips and fan their wings around the pyramid against the backdrop of the blue skies. It was breathtakingly surreal. At some point, we decided we should go to Rose's house at 24th and Church Street, way across town. Leaving the front door of the hotel, we came face to face with the Gateway to Chinatown pagoda facade. We took a right and worked our way up Kearny toward a 3-story modern art mural that adorned the back of a triangular building. We ambled towards Columbus to Jack Kerouac Alley and had a beer at Vesuvio's. Walked through the City Lights bookstore across from the strip joints. Ate Chinese food at one of the great Chinese restaurants nearby. By this time, things were getting much too weird for us to be hanging around in places of business. We cut through Chinatown on foot next, ambled through the cacophony of sights, sounds, smells, and people, peering through windows at intricately carved statues of jade and ivory. Pigs, ducks, and chickens were swinging on hooks and being dispatched with meat cleavers. We were mesmerized by the street vendors, shoppers, and the endless and clamorous ballet of hustle and bustle. Very strange. We walked and finally boarded a bus. Looking towards the back of the bus reminded me of the scene in the end of the movie The Graduate when Ben and Elaine are on the bus after escaping the wedding party. We got off at Dolores Park and walked the few blocks to Rose's upstairs apartment. It was time for music, dancing, and nudity. From Rose's landing, we looked out towards the Golden Gate Bridge. As night fell, the clouds separated and flew across the sky, collecting on Telegraph Hill. I was thinking that the things we had seen in San Francisco that day were all so strange that if someone was going to take acid, San Francisco would be the place to do it. It's funny the way things worked out. It was then that Psychedelic Joe pulled out his tattooing gear. Joe was about 6 feet tall with long black hair and a full bushy beard. He looked like the biker guy with the Fu Manchu mustache in the Village People. Covered with body art, he was an imposing figure given our mindset. We were pretty loaded, and I kept asking him if he could handle the task at hand. Maybe another day would be better. He insisted he was fine, so we chose a flaming, multicolored sun on my right shoulder. He was going to begin with a freehand circle. Well, it took him 3 swipes to get that done. When I told him it didn't look symmetrical, He said it looked that way because I was tripping. I pointed out to him he was tripping as well. It went on. It's still there on my shoulder these 34 years later. That was my last tattoo. That was the day I finally got it. Tattoos are permanent. Years later, my daughter Jazz came to me before entering college to ask what she should study in college that would provide her with financial security. Upon reflection, I suggested tattoo removal.